Why Kitovi Zhimomi calls the Nscn harmful for the Naga people. A detailed examination. The recent remarks by Kitovi Zhimomi, convener of the Working Committee of the Naga National Political Groups, WC NNPGs, have reignited sharp debates in Nagaland's political landscape. Speaking on the occasion of the 79th Naga Independence Day, Kitovi accused the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, Isak Muiva, or Nscn of being harmful for the Naga people. His comments were not mere rhetorical jabs. They carried pointed historical references, political grievances, and a call for a more inclusive approach to the Indo-Naga peace process. To understand the weight of his statements, it is essential to examine the background of Naga politics, the events leading up to the current stalemate, and the specifics of Kitovi's criticism. One of the first areas Kitovi touched upon was the deep mistrust rooted in the violent history of the Naga armed movement. He made a direct reference to the 1988 split within the Nscn, which led to bloody factional clashes between the Nscn led by Isak Chishiswu and Thwingalang Muiva on one side, and the faction led by SS Kaplang on the other. This period saw the assassination of leaders, deadly ambushes, and the killing of civilians caught in the crossfire. Kitovi alleged that Nscn leaders were responsible for massacring thousands of innocent Nagas during those years, leaving behind widows, orphans, and a legacy of bitterness. His framing of this violent past was meant to underscore that the Nscn's approach to political objectives had been marked by coercion and bloodshed, and that these methods have had long-lasting consequences for the Naga people's unity and trust. Moving from history to the present, Kitovi strongly criticized the Nscn's decision to sign the framework agreement with the Government of India on August 3, 2015. The agreement, which was hailed at the time as a potential breakthrough, was signed without the involvement or consultation of other major Naga stakeholders, including the WC NNPGs. For Kitovi, this unilateral action was not just a strategic blunder but a deliberate exclusion of other voices in the Naga political spectrum. He described this signing as a hurried move and pointed out that nearly a decade later, the framework agreement has not yielded a final settlement. In his view, this outcome is proof that bypassing inclusivity in negotiations leads to a deadlock rather than a solution. The secrecy surrounding the framework agreement was another focal point of Kitovi's critique. He alleged that only a handful of top Nscn leaders, perhaps 3 or 4 individuals, are fully aware of the details of the agreement, while 99% of its members remain in the dark. This, according to Kitovi, is dangerous for a political movement that claims to represent an entire people. By keeping critical information hidden from the public and even from the rank-and-file members of the organization, Nscn has, in his eyes, undermined democratic transparency and accountability within the movement. Kitovi's implication was that such secrecy breeds mistrust, both within the organization and among the Naga people at large. Kitovi also accused the Nscn of actively obstructing an early and inclusive political settlement. He explained that the WC NNPGs concluded their own negotiations with the Government of India on October 31, 2019, resulting in what is known as the agreed position. According to him, the stage was set for the signing of a final settlement that would address the aspirations of various Naga tribes across Nagaland, Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh, and even Myanmar. However, he claimed that the Nscn introduced new demands in 2020, specifically the insistence on a separate Naga flag and constitution long after the main negotiations had concluded. Kitovi framed these late-stage demands as deliberate tactics to stall the peace process, suggesting that Nscn was prioritizing its own political leverage over the collective interest of achieving peace. The issue of unity among Naga political groups was another area where Kitovi took aim at Nscn. Between 2009 and 2015, various Naga factions signed around 14 agreements under the Forum for Naga Reconciliation, FNR, committing themselves to work towards a common goal. Kitovi alleged that Nscn betrayed the spirit of these agreements by proceeding to sign the framework agreement without consulting the other parties. This, he argued, showed a consistent pattern of breaking collective commitments whenever they conflicted with the Nscn's own strategies. Kitovi made a pointed comparison between the agreed position reached by the WC NNPGs and the framework agreement signed by Nscn-IM. In his telling, the agreed position is inclusive and forward-looking, offering provisions that address the concerns of Nagas not only in Nagaland, but also in the neighboring states of Manipur and Arunachal Pradesh, as well as in Naga-inhabited areas of Myanmar. In contrast, he portrayed the framework agreement as an instrument designed to serve the interests of a small leadership circle within Nscn-IM, leaving out a large portion of the Naga population from meaningful participation in the political process. Adding to the tension is Nscn-IM's open refusal to work with the WC NNPGs. Nscn-IM President Q Tuku has publicly stated that his organization does not wish to collaborate with the NNPGs. Kitovi suggested that Tuku may have been pressured into making such a statement, hinting at internal divisions or external influences shaping Nscn-IM's public posture. The refusal to work together is significant because it directly undermines the prospects for a united Naga voice in negotiations with the Indian government, a unity that many observers believe is essential for achieving a durable solution. Kitovi concluded his remarks with a warning that the Naga people stand at a dangerous point in their history. Delays in reaching a final and inclusive settlement, he argued, will harm not only the present generation but also the future of Naga youth. According to him, 90% of Nagas are in favor of an early solution, but a small group of individuals is preventing that from happening. This framing places the responsibility for the current deadlock squarely on the shoulders of the Nscn-IM leadership, while casting the WC NNPGs as the faction committed to delivering a solution in the shortest possible time. From Kitovi's perspective, the harmfulness of Nscn-IM stems from a combination of historical baggage, unilateralism, secrecy, obstruction, and self-serving politics. He accuses the group of repeating the mistakes of the past, mistakes that have cost lives, fractured unity, and squandered opportunities for peace. His narrative positions the WC NNPGs as an antidote to these problems, emphasizing inclusivity, transparency, and a willingness to work within a realistic framework to achieve a settlement. It is worth noting that Kitovi's remarks come at a time when both Nscn-IM and the WC NNPGs are under pressure to demonstrate progress in the Indo-Naga peace process. The Indian government has repeatedly signaled that it wants to bring the negotiations to a close, but differences between the two Naga sides have slowed the process. The Nscn-IM continues to hold out for certain symbolic and constitutional assurances, while the WC NNPGs appear more willing to sign an agreement based on what has already been negotiated. This divergence in approach creates a stalemate, with each side accusing the other of being the obstacle to peace. In analyzing Kitovi's position, it is clear that his critique is designed to do more than just challenge Nscn-IM's leadership. It is also an appeal to the Naga public to recognize the costs of continued division and to rally around the idea of an inclusive settlement. By invoking history, exposing secrecy, and highlighting the missed opportunities of recent years, Kitovi is attempting to shape the narrative in favor of the WC NNPG's approach. His message is that the Naga people have already suffered too much from internal conflict and political maneuvering, and that the time has come for practical decisions rather than idealistic or maximalist demands. However, it is also important to consider that Nscn-IM may see itself as holding out for principles it believes are non-negotiable, such as the symbolic importance of a separate flag and constitution. From that perspective, the group might argue that compromising on these points would amount to abandoning the core of the Naga struggle. This philosophical difference between those who seek an immediate but perhaps partial settlement and those who demand a settlement that fulfills all their aspirations is at the heart of the divide. The danger, as Kitovi warns, is that such divisions could prolong the stalemate indefinitely. In the meantime, the daily lives of ordinary Nagas continue to be affected by uncertainty, political instability, and the lingering presence of armed factions. Economic development remains hampered in many areas, and younger generations grow up in a climate where peace has been promised but never fully delivered. Kitovi's public statements therefore serve multiple purposes. They are an attack on Nscn-IM's leadership, a defense of the WC NNPG's record, and a broader political strategy to win public opinion. Whether this strategy succeeds depends on how the Naga public perceives the urgency of a settlement versus the importance of holding out for symbolic guarantees. The coming months and years will likely reveal whether Kitovi's call for unity and inclusivity gains traction. or whether the Naga political movement remains divided between two competing visions of the future. What is certain is that the Indo-Naga peace process has reached a critical juncture. The grievances, mistrust, and political maneuvering of the past continue to cast long shadows over the present. Kitovi's accusation that Nscn is harmful for the Naga people is not merely an insult. It is a reflection of deep structural disagreements about how to achieve lasting peace. His emphasis on inclusivity, transparency, and urgency stands in contrast to Nscn's guarded and uncompromising posture. Whether these differences can be bridged will determine the course of Naga politics in the years ahead. Sources for this analysis include Nagaland Post's coverage of Kitovi's Independence Day speech, Eastern Mirror's reporting on his criticisms of Nscn's approach, and additional context from Times of India articles on the peace process. These sources provide a factual basis for understanding both the historical grievances and the present-day disagreements between the WC NNPGs and Nscn. Disclaimer from Zalengam Media. This video is prepared solely for informational and analytical purposes. It is based on public speeches, media reports, and historical records available in the public domain. Zalengam Media does not endorse or oppose any political group or organization mentioned in this article. All interpretations are derived from reported facts and statements made by the individuals concerned. Viewers are encouraged to verify all information independently and to consider multiple perspectives before drawing conclusions.